So we've got just under an hour. I will now open the floor and let's get the conversation flowing. Any comments or questions? Clara.
Thank you again, everyone. It was a very beautiful day and I learned a lot. I wanted to refer something that you said before about being an activist, and you brought your example of Jeffrey Sachs talking about a human act, that you're of course a professor, but you were able to talk as an activist, and I think it's a good example, and I think everyone should follow this example. And I remember once I went to a conference and it was about the climate reality leaders, and people asked me, so you also have a PhD in environmental sustainability? And I said, no. So what I really think it's the wrong message that I think the majority of people have about the SDGs. There's something for so-called the elite, something for the UN, and that's where the message goes wrong, and people also don't take action about it. And I think also want to give a bit of food for thought. So we talk about social entrepreneurship, amazing, great ideas, but I think what we need to fight at the moment, and I really want to use the word fight, it's how world politics is going. And I know the topic is very controversial, but I'm very involved in the topic of advocacy, and I try to connect with lots of decision makers. And the answer that I got from most of them, it's basically, why should I do something on SDGs if it's like against being elected the next time? So the question is why the majority of citizens, people from, let's say, middle class or poor condition, are deciding to vote for parties that are against them, against education, against women, against LGBT rights. And so this is just a food for thoughts. What do you think we should do more about this topic?
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Hero, Eric, Gabriela, and then Mariana. Short, please.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I haven't really provided anything substantive, so I just wanted to put the journal over before the debates get into really heated. The United Nations Major Group for Children Youth, as he just briefly explained, is a platform where you can engage in the intergovernmental negotiation where the big decision making happening around SDG or migration or other processes. And then as we have been discussing creating a movement, talking about public policy, I mean, our platform is open spaces where if you are interested in kind of international policy-making processes at the UN, we are definitely open for, for you to provide inputs, comments, initiatives that really can be scaled up to support government and other actors to implement the SDGs and other agenda. So I just wanted to put that forward, and then happy to discuss any further. If you want to talk to me, just come and say hi.
Hi everyone, my name is Eric. I call myself the next or future Secretary General of the UN. So I'm going to give you jobs, don't worry. But my point is not that. I really want to ask this to Jeffrey Sachs. Recently we had, I'm the network coordinator for SDSN Youth for the Great Lakes region. I'm based in Kigali, Rwanda. Recently we had the Youth Connect Africa Summit in Kigali, and we partnered with UNDP, and our SDG coordinators were explaining the recent SDG index and dashboard. And we found that some countries were not represented, like I think three of them. So when a person from that country comes in and asks us, what is my country doing to implement the SDGs, we did not have something to say. And we are saying that we want to leave no one behind. And some data, some information are not there to show how countries are progressing. So what is SDSN, or what should we do to make sure the government give those data? Thank you.
Jeff, did you want to just quickly cover? Great. Mariana?
So this is a question specifically for the SDNS youth crew. This room is full of you, and we learn so much from you, but I realize now that I've learned most of all of your amazing achievements and your brilliant minds by hearing you speak, and I would love to be more engaged in a dialogue, and to have your eyes on some of our projects, we need help. We need a lot of help. And I realized that on these years, I've shared this floor 3 years, and I have not been able to reach that resource, your human resource. And I think I just want to ask, how are you reaching out to the NGOs in your local communities? Like, I feel NGOs have a really strong voice in all of these matters because you know about circumstance and about context. So it's just an open invitation. We need help. Please help us. Thank you.
Great. Gabriela, and then Molly.
Hello again. Just a really quick and practical point. Is working? Yes. Specifically to the SDSN team related to the World Youth Day. I'm not really sure about the details of the work you guys are putting together. I'm sure it's going to be great. But just wanted to mention that I think it's really important that Catholics, especially literate Catholics, are part of your team. So the World Youth Day is this huge, massive thing where there's a lot of activities going on, from charismatic worship to the liturgy of the hours to great big assemblies. Is a lot. So the work has to be really, really focused. And a way I honestly believe to send the message of the SDGs across is to target that message to the audience, and that is make a conscious effort to try to translate what the agenda is saying in terms of not only the Beatitudes, that is like the obvious thing, but I mean the gospel, or the social teachings of the Catholic Church, like basically manage to try to say, well, if you work for the SDGs, you're actually finding your way to God, and that I think will have a really big impact. So that's it.
Yeah, just quickly on that, colleagues, Sienna and Nicholas are working on building those relationships. We basically invited the head of World Youth Day, but unfortunately he's in Panama for the preparations. But there are definitely some big plans that we have, so we'll be happy to connect on how we could connect those dots. But we are in touch with we're trying to facilitate with the government of Panama, but also World Youth Day, some specific actions on how we can contribute to this very important occasion. Molly.
Thanks. And I just wanted to make a quick comment about World Youth Day. I actually ended up kind of dropping out of the SDSN part of that, but connected with Esri Panama. And we've been too busy to set up a map exhibit. We've talked about it. If a miracle happens, we'll be down there. But we have been watching them, map the logistics to make sure you'll all have enough restaurants and food and bedding within the area. So that's been very interesting behind the scenes. Just logistically, I'd love to hear from Jeffrey Sachs or others more tied in with the UN Foundation or UN funds, if there's ever been any discussion about, say, a revolving fund that can combine both our for-profit and social enterprise efforts and nonprofits maybe to support our work, or if there's any way to kind of combine investment for youth, because this is an ongoing problem. And we're starting to scale up and we're doing better, but we can continue to do this. And I'm just curious about any murmurs you might have heard about that or possibilities. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Dario's initiative perfectly captures that, which I think, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, very briefly. As part of the work that we're doing on the Youth Solutions Hub, we had a few members of our team who are currently doing a scoping study on attaching a permanent funding mechanism to the Youth Solutions Hub. Parts of that research is also in the Youth Solutions report. In the last one, if you read about it, there's a chapter on access to finance, which is sort of the basis of what we're trying to do. And this is also why we're talking to a few of the people who are engaged in this space of funding to really try to make that component one of the central ones of the hub.
Yep, and just to quickly add to that as well is, I mean, the question is a really good one, which is, and we had it at the last symposium as well, is there going to be a dedicated fund for young people who are working on specific projects on SDGs to apply to help scale their efforts? And the answer is yes, we have found that fund. We just need to help increase its the amount of money in it, basically. So there's an effort. We are currently in partnership with JCI, who are currently having their big gathering and could not be here today, but it's called the Global Youth Empowerment Fund, and is essentially to help facilitate this purpose, and it will be attached to the Youth Solutions Hub that Dario and his team have just launched today. So I hope that answers your question. Adrian, Karen, and then, yes.
Thanks, Sam. I just wanted to quickly chip in on the comment that we had previously about how nonprofits can get more involved with SDSN Youth and the support. So we actually run a member organization program. It's something that we've been trying to revamp over the last 6 months or so to see how we can better value add. But we have a global network of about 750 youth organizations. So as long as you're a youth organization that is run by youth or for youth related to the SDGs, we welcome any applications to join the network, and we're very happy to try and support. So once these organizations join our network coordinators work directly with them. So if they have any issues, for example, we step in. Some examples in the past, Child Fund Brazil, an NGO in South America, wanted to work with COP23 on translating some of their materials. So we step in and say, you know, how do we connect you to the right people? How do we support you in that effort? Or in China, another member organization is running a conference. So how do we support in terms of program design, helping to get speakers? So we really do want to try and help any youth group working on the SDGs. So if you have any questions about that at all, please speak to myself or Sienna, a member of my team there, or any of the network coordinators, and we'll be more than happy to share more information about that. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Karen?
Thank you. My name is Karin. I am the network coordinator for SDSN Youth in Northern Europe, which sounds very big, but it's actually just Scandinavia. First of all, Gabriella, can we please talk about Trine afterwards? They have their office just next to mine, and my boyfriend worked there, so like I love Trine. And my friends work there now. But what I was about to say is that I grabbed this very lovely report that SDSN produces, and luckily, Sweden is #1 on the SDG index, which congrats me, I guess, or someone else. But, but my point was that showing this report to other people in Scandinavia or in Sweden or like these very privileged areas in the world, they think that work is done. Just because we're #1, we're done. We're finished, we did our part, and let's just go celebrate. And the problem with this is that we, at least me and some of the other participants here, we live in such privileged areas of the world, and we are so privileged in our own countries. And what I really want to tell you is that we have to really use this privilege to do well. A lot of people tell me that, okay, since we're #1, let's just, you know, show the rest of the world how to do it. That's not the point. The point is not to take our solutions and just put them somewhere else and hope that it works. It is about using that privilege, using that stage that you get by having a certain skin color, a certain economic class, a certain education, or a certain language, a certain passport to actually do good and to promote other people. That was my general comment. Let's talk about trying afterwards. Thank you.
Great, down the back.
First off, thank you again for having me, but also I want to let all of the people in the room, especially the folks from SDSN, you make me very proud to be an older millennial, by the way, so appreciate you. A couple of things were brought up, this idea of privilege and elite, and I became an educator because someone in my family reminded me that I have to remove myself from this ivory tower, being a first-gen American and being the first in my family to go to college, and so I've figured that being in the classroom every day was a way to act every day and put that to use. And so I'm willing to bet that every amazing person in this room has had an amazing educator in your life. And we talked about earlier that the community being the center of their own change. Well, every community has a learning space, whether it's a traditional classroom or not. And so I'm asking and encouraging you to please go back home, remove yourself from, you know, these amazing spaces that we're in right now and today, but go back home, visit that one teacher that made an absolute difference in your life, share with them what you're doing right now as a leader in this movement for sustainable development, and share with them the global schools and other lesson plans and things that you've come across, I guarantee you that teacher will put it into action in their classroom the very next day. So reach out to those teachers that made an impact on your life. And the second thing I want to add is I represent several organizations and global networks of educators, Varkey Teacher Ambassadors, RFK Human Rights, Teach SDGs, and so many more. I am a manifestation of synergy, and if you want to use me as a conduit to build bridges and make connections to these teachers around the world, I am here to serve. So, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Great, thank you, thank you. We'll have Dong.
Hi again. My name is Kang Dong-yeol, come from Korea, and SDSN Youth Coordinator of Korea. And today I feel a little bit, actually not a little bit, I feel a lot about challenging because there are so ambitious youth activists in here, and every single youth organization and youth activist is so shiny. So I just thinking about why don't you enhance SDSN youth more popular and more spread out? I mean, there is a website which is name is UN Career. You know, every single youth activist who wanna get in the UN, they visit that website, and every single UN organization who needs new recruitment, they publish the recruitment on that website. And our organization's name is Sustainable Development Solutions Network. So, and we have member organization system, right? So why don't we register every single youth activist, youth organizations on our website? Then if we tag both of their countries and their goals, so here is 17 boxes, which is goal number 1 to 17. Then if I am CEO of some company, click the goal number 1, then the youth organizations who related with goal number 1 list up, and they are publishing the projects, what they are doing. Then the rich guys can funding on their projects, and also they can searching through their region or countries. When they click Korea or when they click Cambodia, they can also see the list which organization doing. You know what I mean?
I think yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The voice optics really helps. I think.
I love you.
So thank you.
That's all.
Yes, so we can discuss this in the workshop tomorrow more, but I think that's a great idea. There have been discussions about it with Adrian and Sophia and others, so great. So can we just go down the back, across, and then I'll come to this side in a moment. Oh, okay. Okay, yes. Quickly, please. No, down the back. Oh, sorry.
So my name is Casina, and I am the Vulnerable Children Program Coordinator at the European Center for Legal Research and Education in Romania. So Romania has the largest number of victims.
No, near to the microphone, near to the microphone.
Okay, sorry, Monsignore. Romania has the largest numbers of victims and the most developed and sophisticated human trafficking networks at European level. So I am sure that all my colleagues having expertise in this field struggle with taking cases to court. So I feel that there is much that can be done regarding the financial investigations and to follow the money, uncover perpetrators, and protect potential victims of this terrible crime by following where the money of the perpetrators come from. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And then.
Thank you very much, Sam. I'd actually like to extend an open invitation and Sam and Professor Sachs. My suggestion on behalf of Nexus Global would like to suggest that we have a joint brain trust, one day workshop focused on defining what do we mean by this financing gap with regards to the SDGs, and more importantly than redefining what that gap is, focus on the solutions and the actions that can be taken at the level of youth, impact investors, and the desire for activists and young leaders to establish new startups, both NGOs and businesses, that would be able to service that gap. So I would like to extend an open invitation to make that happen, and I will be in touch, and it would be lovely to host it again here this year or next year with all of these familiar faces around us today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We accept. Nico.
Okay, so I am the network coordinator SDSN Youth in the Andean region. So I wanted to answer Mariana about the interaction with other organizations. SDSN Youth has shown me that there are a lot of opportunities, so fighting climate change and social inequality is not like a hippies thing, right? In the region, what I would try to do is like try to get to be known in all the regions. As SDSN Youth is hard because like South America is really hard to get these new UN initiatives along, but the SDGs are doing a great work. So we offer the help as well, but we are proposing you to help us connect with other organizations in order to work. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, this side of the room. We'll start from this end and then.
Okay, I think it was the same.
Wait. Sorry, who's going first? I'm confused.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right, sorry about that. Just a comment/suggestion. There's been a lot of talk about faith and the power of God and faith and belief in mobilizing change. And it's been really inspiring hearing about the Catholic movements that are happening around the world. But one sort of suggestion is that, or a reminder rather, that about 5 billion people in the world are not Christian. And if we want the SDGs to be a global movement, we probably need more representation from other faith groups or people without faith as well.
Great, and I might just add, actually, one of the initiatives that we have here, Ethics in Action, is very much about that and having representation from all the other faiths. And I think Tony can talk a little bit more about that after. But yeah, thank you. Sorry, did you want to comment as well? Just quickly, please.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Hi there, guys. I think for me, as an entrepreneur, it's very important to remind NGOs or fellow entrepreneurs that if you have a startup or if you have like a business model that's just relying on funds, then pretty much you will fall into the trap that anytime it's just going to be it's going to completely vanish. So in that sense, I completely advise you to also NGOs try to meet up with private entities because they really know how to actually scale up and how to raise funds. Like, for example, we create energy solutions for NGOs, and I had to kind of raise my seed round for 2.7 million alone. It was pretty hard. Obviously, the team, we had to find ways, but at the same time, for you guys, I would actually advise you as well that for some reason, the government support as well as the private companies, they seem to kind of separate it. And I think, like for example, now we collaborate with Telefonica, which is the biggest telecommunications company in South America, Orange, which is also a telecommunications company. All of them have amazing projects all around the world supporting communities. So if you do have an NGO, don't just look or seek help with governmental entities, but also like you can approach Microsoft and so many more in order for you to also get funding and
support all these institutions, but I would advise that it's not easy reaching out to them. Like, we had to work really, really hard in order to reach them, and I don't think we would be able to reach them if we wouldn't have such an amazing technology. So in that sense, I do advise for the SDSN to kind of reach to these companies, already create networking events for the NGOs as well to, network with them, and I can assure you that big projects are going to rise thanks to it.
Great, thank you very much. Sorry, did you want to, just very briefly?
Yeah, I'll be very brief. I would just like to pick up on the conversation about the role of teachers. First of all, thank you very much for bringing that up. I think teachers are obviously amazing at doing such a great work in communities and shaping the future generation, and congratulations for your work. And very often they're not recognized for implementing the SDGs without even knowing what the SDGs are. And this is also why I'd like to talk a little bit more about local leaders and how important they are for the SDGs. And very quickly on an experience that we had in between, like those synergies between local leaders and teachers, is that we were, as I said, in a community in Colombia, where we met with one of our leaders. Her name is Josefina, and Josefina was bringing tourism for the first time in a region in Colombia that was completely banned for tourists because of security reasons. And actually, where we were in this community, a lot of kids that we met wanted to work on tourism and on climate change. So we decided to invite our leaders in schools and start really creating those synergies between leaders and teachers. And if really teachers are about, creating the future generation and helping young people to understand what they want to do in the future, then local leaders are also important to bring in this conversation. So congratulations again, and thank you for bringing this very important topic.
Thank you. Well, yeah, first of all, thank you so much to all of the SDSN team. Amazing conference, and so amazing hearing about all your new programs, which sound like exactly what the world needs. And yeah, I just wanted to come quickly back to the issue of raising awareness around the SDGs and sort of holding people's attention in the modern world. Professor Sachs was talking about how difficult that is at the national level, but I also think it's true at a local and a personal level. As a young person working in this field, it's incredibly difficult to catch people's attention over, trying to get more followers, and someone who posts pictures of them at the gym or what they've just eaten for the last meal is extremely difficult. And hearing all the incredible stories of what people are doing here today just makes me think, that's what everyone should be excited about. That's what people should be talking about and listening to. And also Mariana's question made me think a lot as well, how absurd it is that her amazing project, it's difficult to connect with people and raise awareness around it. So yeah, I really think we need a movement of global young change makers, not only taking action, but also being ambassadors for the causes we're working on and really amplifying all these important messages. And so yeah, just to offer one tiny bit of help, I'm program coordinator of an event called the Youth Assembly, and twice a year we bring together 1,000 young leaders, change makers, and social entrepreneurs, like many in this room. And from that, we also have an online community of 50,000 young leaders across nearly every country in the world. So if anyone here I haven't spoken to yet is looking to amplify your work or engage more with young people, if there's any contribution we can make, please grab me, and I'd love to talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Zan. And I must say, I'm guilty of posting those photos. Not the gym ones, just the food ones. So just to be clear about that. Clayton, then Christina.
Yeah, just a couple quick comments. I just wanted to thank Monsignor and Jeff and Sam and Gabriella and the whole team here. I really appreciate this. I know that I'm not alone in this room, so just wanted to say thank you all very, very much. I wanted to share a quick resource that could be helpful to some of you here in the room. We found a major breakthrough in requesting money from companies and from foundations when we really had the research to back up our impact. And we've just partnered with something called the Global Environmental and Economic Opportunity Center, or GEO, at UCF, and they have offered to study the impact of projects that us and our peers are doing. My contact info was up there very briefly. My email's clay@ideasforus.org. One of the nice things of having this research group is that their colleagues are helping me to think differently about some of these solutions. Imagine the utilization of not just blockchain technology in the SDGs. I think that that's something that many of you here are familiar with, but also think about augmented reality. And the fact that as time goes on and SpaceX launches their global internet system through satellites, you now have people in rural communities around the world suddenly able to get online. Imagine utilizing augmented reality to know exactly where to put your garden, exactly where to put the solar installation. Virtual reality and these types of things are absolutely the future, and it's a wonderful resource to have universities helping with those kinds of things. So I just wanted to mention that real quick. Please reach out to me. I'm here to help all of you. It's an honor to be here with so many peers. Thank you very much.
So, thank you, Sam. I can't describe how honored I feel to be here today. I want to stress that I'm a very sensitive person, so pardon me if you hear the word feel a lot when I speak. So today, it was my first time participating in Vatican Youth Symposium, and I feel so inspired. And I want to thank you all so much for inspiring me and for what each one of you are doing. And the thing is that during the whole symposium, I realized that I feel very confident because I'm inspired, but is that an illusion? Because then I thought of the challenges that we have outside of this venue. And the challenges are that our societies tend to become more and more intolerant. And how can I get that? Because people tend to vote for politicians that legitimate hate speech, racism, and or even more violent ways. And I think that if I want to add something in your agenda, and if I can inspire you a little bit as much as you inspired me, is that our job and our responsibility is to go outside, be a little bit more activists, even go on the streets, I would say, me, myself, and help people understand that we can make the change we want without using violence. There is a lot of injustice out there, and injustice is always translated into anger, and anger is never the solution, and we can never reach peace and happiness and love through it. So thanks a lot.
Hello everyone, I am Isabel Perez Barro. I am the UN focal point for SDSN Youth and also the project leader for the initiative Arts 2030 within SDSN Youth that brings together artists towards the implementation of the SDGs. And I think this is a theme that came up through the discussions, how the arts in the case of global citizens or sports in the case of common goals can inspire to action. In fact, Escolas Ocurrentes uses the arts and the sports framework in order to communicate these goals. I think the arts can inspire innovation, creativity, out of the box thinking, also communication. A lot of times we have this challenge of communicating the SDGs to everyone, and the arts and sports can be a great way of doing that, of bridging that gap, and also including everyone, leaving no one behind. So I believe that to lead to action, you have to inspire. To inspire, you have to not only convince the minds, but also move the hearts, move the spirits. So I would like to ask all of you to think about the role that actually arts and sports and new ways, new approaches to sustainable development can have in the implementation of the SDGs and in your own initiatives.
Michelle? Sorry, if we can just save the clapping for after, I promise I'll give you plenty of time to clap. Just wanted to get through. Esho.
Sí. Quería comentar respecto al tema de los recursos. Bueno, lo que están compartiendo me hizo recordar que hace unos años me tocó observar un proyecto que se hizo con mujeres que estaban en situación de prostitución, en las que se consiguió un financiamiento para que ellas pudieran poner un negocio y a partir de este negocio poder dejar la prostitución. Y el proyecto fracasó, y precisamente fracasó porque el análisis que yo hacía tenía que ver con que no solamente es cómo consigues el recurso y cómo lo tienes, sino la forma en la que nos apropiamos del dinero, es decir, qué implica el dinero. Hay una autora argentina que se llama Clara Coria, que tiene un libro que se llama El sexo oculto del dinero, y precisamente habla del patriarcado y su relación con el aspecto económico. Lo estoy diciendo en un aspecto micro y sé que muchas y muchos de ustedes lo hablan desde las organizaciones, pero a lo que voy es, muchos de los proyectos en los que pensamos generar una incidencia y que las personas puedan tener recursos para hacer cosas, van más allá de únicamente el recurso material, sino que implica una transformación de la subjetividad, de la apropiación que tenemos de los recursos, de lo que esto implica, y esto es la despatriarcalización y también implica un análisis de toda la dominación que hemos vivido. Entonces creo que ese es un aspecto importante a tener en cuenta y quería compartirlo, porque nos lleva a mirar que hay cambios que son de larga duración, más allá del tiempo que nos planteemos para generar un cambio social. El cambio de las mentalidades y el cambio cultural es un proceso lento y que empieza por una y uno mismo. Y precisamente otro elemento sería que más allá de la violencia de la que hemos estado hablando, detrás de la violencia están las relaciones de poder. Cuando el poder se pierde o se pierde con el control, es cuando se ejerce la violencia. Entonces también una invitación a que muchos de nuestros proyectos puedan ir enfocados a este análisis de poder, porque de otra manera solamente estaremos haciendo paliativos para atenuar o darle continuidad a estos procesos de despojo, que lo que vienen haciendo es romper las comunidades, y también tener presente que pues la mayoría de las comunidades en las que intervenimos vienen realizando los objetivos para el desarrollo sostenible, no nombrados de esta forma, pero muchas de sus prácticas tienen que ver con buscar la comunidad y con una lucha constante contra el despojo. Los objetivos son un nombre nuevo o moderno que le ponemos. Sin embargo, creo que es importante tener presente que la gente ya lo está haciendo y que de alguna manera tal vez solo colaboramos o contribuimos, pero también entender otras formas y otras culturas y otros lenguajes y otras geografías en las que esto ya se viene realizando.
Gracias.
Hey everyone. Oh, okay, sorry. So first of all, I would like to say thank you for all the great speeches and beautiful slides, because you've been a huge inspiration for me and probably all of us. My point will be a local one. Well, I would like to say that the Turkish youth is really looking forward to become active in this global pursuit of sustainability and development, but sadly, with all these, while I see all these great projects and slides, I've yet to see the name and action actually being taken in Turkey, and also the Turkish youth being a part of these projects. Well, I thought to myself, this actually may mean two different things. First of all, first option is probably the Turkey is actually done with the SDGs because we reached all the SDG goals, and well, considering we have a Sweden here, I think that's not the case. And the second option is probably the real option, is that the Turkish youth is not actually being able to mobilize and take part in this global pursuit, the pursuit of sustainability. So my request from all these beautiful projects and people here that please consider taking the Turkish youth in your networks and projects as well, because as the second mostly populated country in all of Europe, and if you take Turkey as in the context of the Middle East, one of the most populated countries right next to Egypt and Iran, we have a very huge workforce and a huge youth that is actually looking forward to take part. So lastly, I would like to point out that my belief is that for a global project to be successful, it has to have a strong local structure as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. First of all, I do want to say that
I thought I was young until I came in this space. And they heard I was 33 looking at me like, what? My mom is almost like, okay. So that was a new knowledge I learned. And on that point, like Jeffrey said earlier, nobody is self-made. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Kayla, who came up to me out of nowhere and just said, I think this would be good for you and you should come along. And thank you for that. So my question or request is, my generation and those who are coming after me, unfortunately, we have gone away from getting the wisdom of our elders or being held up by them and by being in separate spaces. And being in such a space, yes, most of them have ruined our planet, but a lot of them have done the right things and are still doing these things. So how can we stay in touch or tap into the wisdom and the work that our not so young elders are doing and to help us do better in the ways we're going?
That's a very important point. I might just add, I usually say this, I say the creativity, the idealism, and the numbers of young people matched or in marriage with the financial power, the experience, and the expertise of older generations, I think that's when the real magic happens. So thank you for that. Okay, this side is getting angry with me now. I'll come back to that side too. Chris, and then...
Hi, everyone. And again, my name is Chris. I'm the SDSN Youth Network Coordinator for Canada. I just wanted to pick up on a red thread that I think ran through a lot of the conversations today, and that red thread is behavior change. Ultimately, when it comes to implementing the SDGs, we just need to change our behavior, and that's kind of it. It seems that there's been mounting interest within the international community on this kind of topic of behavioral change. Over the summer at the High-Level Political Forum in New York, there was the first ever United Nations Behavioral Insights Day, which is all about spreading that information and that scientific knowledge within the global development community. SDSN Youth's Canada Network team, actually just 10 days ago, last weekend on October 19th and 20th, we hosted an Urban Thinkers Campus Conference at the UN Program for Human Settlements in partnership with that agency on the topic of behavior change for sustainable cities, or we tried to think about all the ways in which behaviors need to change in Canadian cities and what we can do about that. I'm personally quite interested in this topic, and if you are as well, if you could, I'd love to connect and continue that conversation and see what we can all work on together. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hi,
Down the back, yes.
Can I start? Hi, I'm Buda. I'm from Turkey, Istanbul, and I think I am the only high school student in here, and so I am really excited. When I return to my high school, I will organize conferences in my school to raise awareness about these issues, because as a result of my observation, I recognize that there is lack of awareness in students in Istanbul, even the educated part of it. And I feel so lucky to find a chance to get in such atmosphere and communicate with professionals like you. And I want to thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. I am so happy to be here, to be part of this event. I don't want to be selfish, but I want to tell you how much I love my country. And I think my guy beside me is here. He's not going far. I have Eric. I have now Willie. What I'm going to say is that I want the likes of Aguilera. You want to take action? I think you can come over to Nigeria. We have the population. We have the markets. You're an entrepreneur. You're going to make your money. Mr. Go-Getter, we have footballers in Nigeria that can actually let the work you're doing show out to the world. You're going to make your money, you're going to make change, you're going to make life meaningful. Also, about the global school, I want to congratulate you on a good job you're doing. I really appreciate that. But like I said, I think we need a special package for teachers. It will make our work so simple. Let them teach these young chaps from the secondary schools, from the primary schools, and I think part of that side will be sorted by the teachers at some point in time. And if we have some special packages like trainings, workshop for them. I think it will go a long way in achieving the SDGs. Then also about my guy that is talking about the little kids. I think I have to be happy to have something about the kids because they are the sustainability. We are growing, they are coming. They are what we are looking back and we are saying, yeah, we are sustainable. I think I have a kid that I can introduce to him. That's my daughter, and I think she can help promote the SDG because she is sustainable. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. And I'm surprised you haven't been headhunted by the Minister of Tourism in Nigeria yet, making all this.
Hi everyone, Abby again. Just want to thank the organizers, Professor Sachs, Sam, and Kayla. Thanks a lot for extending the invite. And there's an African American saying that if you hang around the barber shop long enough, sooner or later you're going to get a haircut. It's so amazing. It's easy for people to talk about rhetoric and talk about all the problems with the world, but it's quite exciting to see what contributing humble quota to the development eminent in the landscape of the world. And I'm very, very excited. No finger pointing here. Just engaging in thought-provoking dialogue, and just want to end by saying but with an African saying, so if we want to go fast, we can go alone. But if we want to go far, we can fundamentally go together like we are today, because our worlds is inextricably tied together. So thanks a lot, everyone, and this has been a terrific experience.
Is it on now? Oh, Jesus. Hi. I'm so glad there's not a live stream this year. I'm director of the Queen's Young Leaders Programme, and I just wanted to say a quick thing, jump on what Tabitha said, which was, I'm 34, Tabitha think said was 33. There's this weird middle age that a lot of change makers become when they stop being 30 and all the youth things end. And then, but you're not an elder and you've not quite got the cash yet, but you've got a lot of contacts and the energy, and the elders think you're still young, but you're not really young. And I think it's just really good that whenever you're planning anything, two things. One, just say, have I run this past somebody that knows nothing about it? Have I gone to somebody who's 15, 18 in high school? There's a really joyful thing when you are as old as me and you chat to someone that's 16 and they tell you how to do something and you go, oh, I don't know everything anymore. Like, you get very used to being confident that you know everything. Like, you get a bit jaded, you're like, oh, I've heard this conference speech before. And it's really nice to have your eyes open, so don't be scared to put it in front of someone you think won't understand and see what they say. And equally, reach out to us older, middle-aged people, because we'll probably just be really excited and have something to give you, and we get as much from collaborating with you as you will from us, but we maybe have the clout that you need to open the doors that you haven't quite got yet. And the other thing is, I said 2, 3, be careful if you're working with young people. I know you've got like the university program and other youth programs, to not be focusing on people who are self-selecting to get there. Because many of you, I know, have been to conferences all over the world like this, and there's something that, I don't know if I coined it or it's somebody else's, but professional young people. Again and again, you see people who are professional young people. They're doing great things, but they're just getting better and better at giving pre-prepared speeches. And they're not on the ground as much as they should be. So just try and, go, okay, so we've reached all these people, but how did they find out about us? If it's 90% from one way, that's great, but that just means they're tuned in. So who's that 10%? Is it, like you said, you have to actually go on the street and meet people, go places that, maybe has nothing to do with what you're doing, but if you're reaching someone you would never have thought of, even just so my background's in design, service design, and one thing we do is just a really easy thing is table, chair, lamp,
weather, rain, and you just put a weird word in and try and extrapolate from that just to get ideas of people you might not have touched. And it sounds random, but sometimes you hit things that are just not the way your brain path normally goes. I'm done now. Sorry
Okay,
for the blasphemy.
Thank you. And on the street we shall go. I think that's a very important point, that we need to go outside of some of these echo chambers that we have and go beyond and reach the individuals that have not heard of the message. I think that's a critical point. Thank you very much for that. Very brief, and then Bouquet. Yes.
Thank you very much. Lawrence once again from the Commonwealth Youth Program in London. And in the spirit of the young at heart people who have been speaking, I happen to be in that category. I mean, my remedy has been, I just go with the African Union youth definition of youth, which is up to 35, so it gives me a bit of a leeway. And when that finishes, I go with the Cameroon definition, which is 40. And I just keep progressing like that. But anyway, I'll mention and say that thank you very much for the organizers for having me on board. And in this spirit of collaboration and partnership, I think what we need to do more is exactly what everybody is saying at this very end, that we need to collaborate more, talk a bit more, stop reinventing the wheel, stop doing the same thing others are doing, and get to talk to each other, get to share a bit more, get to invite each other to a bit more of this partnerships, to get to see areas of collaboration and synergy. And in that spirit, I will also be extending to all of you what we have every year, every 2 years, which is a Commonwealth Youth Forum. Prince Harry has come on board as a Commonwealth Youth Ambassador, and will also be using his clout and presence to also be able to draw in a bit more partners to the work that we are doing. And we'll be having the next one actually in Kigali, in Rwanda, and we'll be sharing a bit more on some of this discussion that we'll be having. We'd love to hear a bit more about the SDSN network and the wider community practice you all have among our programs. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Bouquet and then Gordon.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Bouquet. I am from SDSN Youth Turkey. I'm also a founder of the SDSN Academic Club. During the Know Your Goals campaign, working for SDGs vastly impacted me to establish SDSN Academic Club in my university. And this club is right now in a well-known institute with its high-level seminar, panels, conferences, workshops, and projects. And it has approximately 200 active members, which is they are ready for new actions with new partners. And apart from that, without SDSN Academic Club's team dedication and SDSN youth support, nothing would happen. I just want to say thank you, SDSN youth, that never leave me behind. And I just want to say thank you all, solution-oriented person, to encourage us and yourself to break all of the barriers in order to living more equal, tolerant, and peaceful world. Grazie.
Okay, my name is Gordon Bible Dobache. I'm the Deputy National Director of the United Nations Youth. In fact, I also wish to extend or add my voice to thank the organizers of the program, Professor Jeff Sachs. In fact, I've listened to the beautiful and cogent submissions made by the House, but I just would like to add, through Professor Jeff Sachs' quarters, usually we are here, we've said all the beautiful things, try to ensure and to contribute to the transformational 2030 agenda set by the United Nations through championing of the respective SDGs. But again, my prime concern is that let's try and put together a paradigm. It's just a contribution, actually. Let's put together a feedback paradigm. The reason why I say that is that we might sit here and put together all the beautiful submissions, or the beautiful elements that will ensure that the agenda is being seen in its total summation of success. But again, if we don't engage the people I call the victims, if we don't seek to understand why people go into certain acts and activities, we might put together all the beautiful plans, all the beautiful subjects, but if we don't tend to listen and understand the purpose for which they go into such or engage into some act, we might put out an implementation that will become, or that will be rendered an exercise in futility. So I think that going forward, let's try as much as possible to listen to the people and ensure and guide them to what we think would be the best solutions in solving their problems. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Just a couple more comments and then we would have to wrap up. Very short, thank you.
This is actually just a request for you and for Chogum. From Chogum and from this event this year and last year, the feedback I got was that people were asked if they could come with far too short a lead time, which meant you were self-selecting people who could afford to come here. And so maybe for next year, for Chogum and for here, if you could have a lead time that would open up these seats to people that maybe need to fundraise, then we would get a far different level of voice and life experience in the room.
Great, thank you for that feedback. Great. Sorry, who was brief, please?
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you. This has been the honor of my life to be able to return here as a Catholic to participate in this and to work on the 2030 agenda. You're all invited to participate and engage with 2030 today. But I think most importantly is sort of agenda setting moving forward. We all are now connected on this Facebook group. We need to continue that conversation. This is a network, right? It doesn't just end after we leave here. We need to be using it very usefully to share what struggles we're all going through, to share what networks we have access to and so forth. And just to add a little bit of optimism at the end of this whole thing, you know, there's a lot of noise in the media about the U.S. and other countries. The U.S. actually supported a 1% levy on official development assistance earlier this year in part of UN development reform efforts that would go to help fund the RC system, the resident coordinator system that operates in every one of these countries that the UN has offices in, and that is specifically to help the RCs not only on the humanitarian side, but help them implement the SDGs. So some little bit of optimism there too.
Thank you. Final two comments, Karen, and then anyone else? Okay, Karen and Mariana.
Thank you. I just want to say something that in Sweden we have a saying that sometimes your fire within is so strong that you will eventually set yourself on fire, which means that you will hit the wall and you will probably have a burnout. It's not a good thing, don't do that. But I wanted to say was that hearing all these stories and hearing about all these initiatives, it's so amazing to hear what you do all over the world. It's so amazing what we do together. But speaking from own experience, please take care of yourselves when you do this. I had a burnout after high school. I was on sick leave for 6 months. It's not worth it. And please, if you're going to save the world, you have to save yourself first. So keep this in mind when you work. Please take care of yourselves, because otherwise it's all in vain. So keep yourself first and save yourself before you save the world, and be sustainable with yourself, because we all know that mental illness is increasing. There was a report in Sweden a couple of weeks ago that every 10th university student feels depression or is treated for depression during their university studies due to stress. So please take care of yourselves when you go out to save the world. Yes, go out there, save the world, but save yourself.
Thank you. I saw a lot of guilty faces around the room, so maybe afterwards we can come for consultations. It's very necessary. Mariana.
I'll be really quick. I just want to say, I just don't want anyone to leave this room and say, oh my God, those human trafficking guys were all over the place, they were so intense. I would like to ask you to get used to it. Human trafficking is literally the symptom of all the issues we've been discussing here. And I would like to ask you to please take this issue as your personal cause as well. We need to end modern day slavery. You're doing amazing work in your fields. Please take this into consideration, as it might be really close connected to the work that you're doing. That's it, and thank you so much to the organizers. You're the best.
I know you've all been here for 11 hours, so I'm not going to say much, but I wanted to respond to our friend in the front there who made the point about the different religious voices. I think that's a very important point. I just want to point out that this time yesterday, and yes, it was this time because we did also run late yesterday, and where you're sitting right now, we had two cardinals, two Catholic cardinals. We had Metropolitan John Zizioulas, who works with, very theological advisor with His All Holiness Bartholomew, the Patriarch of Constantinople. We had Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, who is a very, very well-respected, well-regarded Muslim leader. We had Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, who is a major Hindu spiritual leader. And what brought them all here for our Ethics and Action meeting was an understanding that the things we care about, the Sustainable Development Goals, the values that underpin them, are shared by all the different religions. And that's a very, very important point to bring out, and we need much more of that. So that's all I wanted to say.
Professor Sachs, did you want to share your final remarks with the group before we break for dinner?
Good, no one's hungry, so I'll speak for a couple of hours. No problem. Well, I was in and out all day, so every time I was in the room, it was amazing, and every time I was out of the room, I was hoping to run back into the room to hear what you're doing, which is phenomenal. And I think the challenge is how to get more out of the connections now. You're doing tremendous, exciting things in your own right, but we want to make the network work for you, and we want to make the network work for the SDGs. So I have a couple of comments and suggestions. We need to pool the networks of networks. There are a lot of groups in this room. And I would like you to put together an email list of millions of people. And you need to figure out how to do that. There's power in numbers. And you'll be more powerful, not stopping your leadership of your organizations, but finding a way to pool together what you're doing so that you can say, I represent millions of young people who are actively online and part of the SDGs. So we should respect and actually strengthen your individual organizations. It's not to dissolve them, but it is to pool them somehow. And I'm convinced that you can do this. And I would really urge you to do this. I want you to be able to say to businesses, there are millions of young people that are actively engaged in this process. If you add up all of the different organizations, I'm sure that that's true right now. But it's not apparently true in the sense that it's not really an active pooled effort yet. So that is one major point that I want you to work on. How can you create a truly global movement that is a movement of movements? And each of your organizations has many components to it, so no problem with the fractal nature of organizations that are organizations of organizations, but I do think the ability to mobilize them is the key of social media and email lists and websites that we're not using effectively right now. So that is one point. Second, the SDSN website has not been very good up until now, I'm sorry to say. With all respect to our website builders, they work incredibly hard, understaffed, and big backlog. but it's not effective as a network use. Wikipedia is effective as a network. Our website is not effective as a network. So we have asked for some help, and I want to ask others here for help who are good at this. But Emma is part of this process, helping to redesign the website. I don't want a website that just has information and you click on it and you find something. I want it to be a website of a global network that allows you to network and allows you to find the contacts and allows you to post requests and allows you to know who's doing what. And we want information on this, and here's our project, and what can we do, and so forth. So that is really our responsibility. And it should be a website that you can look at and learn something about what can be helpful for your specific projects. At least other people to go to, or experts in universities to go to that can do that. We're working on that right now. But I want SDSN Youth to be part of this brainstorming, and this can help you to scale up more effectively than we've been helping so far. Problem solving. So different problems have different kinds of solutions, and I always stress the holistic approach, and it's never right to say the key to the SDGs is X. The keys to the SDGs are X, Y, Z, A, B, C. We're talking about a holistic set of challenges. I like Christopher's point about behavior. Certain issues are about behavior change, many others are not. I have a good contact for you. There's a wonderful group in Monash University that I visited last week called Behavior Works, which is exactly on behavior change for the SDGs, so I'll put you in contact with them. But I raised it because you said that this is the key to the SDGs. And not to pick on you, but it's not. It is a key to the SDGs. But another key is money, and another key is something else, and another key is something else. And so it's really, it takes a long time to see a lot of different solutions and to learn, which you can't know actually yet. And after you know, you forget more than you know, so you never really can keep them all in mind. But we're in ecosystems of problem solving. And I want to stress again the need for kind of, we don't want to make this overly complicated, but it's not overly simple either. When you have particular challenges, you need to learn to analyze them, study them. As some of you mentioned, get advice. Clayton, I think, mentioned get advice from technical groups that know a lot about something. One resource for you, you mentioned Florida, CFU. Which university or?
UCF.
UCF, sorry.
UCF, second largest college in the country.
Right.
And Jim Backus is leading the charge there.
But what I want to say is all of you are either in or near universities also. Universities are really, really cool places. I learned the Greek word for university a couple of days ago in Greece. It's a much better word than the Latin. It is panepistemios, which means all knowledge. So that's a good word. Universities have a lot of really knowledgeable people in them. We need to tap universities effectively. You need in your NGOs to go to your local universities, your alma maters, if you're in school, your professors, and say, you've got to help. you've got to be part of this, because that's what they're there for. They're there to help you solve problems. They're there to help you design, if it's a randomized trial, or to get better measurements, or to say you should read these articles, to give you homework, to give you background. That's their job. And so you need to, they don't need extra pay for that. You need to give them the homework and tell them that Professor Sachs sent you. And I'll be happy to deal with them. It's their job. That's what they have privileged positions. It's great to be a university professor. And so when someone asks you a question, you should respond, or you should say, yes, I'll help you. So use them. You need that for problem solving. No one's expecting you to solve these problems on your own. What we're expecting you is to have a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of much better IT than we have. You know how your phones work, we don't. You can make social networking better than we can, but you don't know a lot of things. But no one's expecting you to know those things. How could you? It takes a lifetime to learn certain things. And then things we know are out of date, so that's why you come in also, because things that I think I know are no longer true, but I'm pretty sure they're true. So you have to tell me, no, it doesn't quite work that way anymore. That's part of the dynamic, but we can't have that dynamic unless you're asking the questions and engaging experts. I really believe in expertise as critical. And, you know, I'm a great fan of Aristotle. One of his methods was what he called endoxa, which is you ask people who know their opinion of certain things, and you canvass expert opinion. You don't just ask around opinion, you ask authoritative opinion. And then he would ask, and then he would analyze it. But still, you ask. And so this is really important for your problem solving. And the SDSN should be a way for you to ask also. You should have a way to ask us, I need someone who's really expert in groundwater, in such and such recycling, or in waste management, or in human trafficking, or in malaria control, or in other topics. We know a lot of people. We have thousands of academics in our network. We don't even know all the people in our network because we have universities attached, so I'll send them to someone who's your colleague that knows someone about this. And so this is something that we should be facilitating, but you need to be asking. And don't think you know. Go get free advice. It's really good, and it will really help you to get, you know, to be on a clear path. When you need help, we need ways to have you be able to ask questions, which is a standard use of a website, which is who can help me on the following issues. We don't have that capacity right now, but I would really like us to have that capacity far more facilitative of what you're doing. We have the SDG Academy, which is online courses. They're free, they're good. There are about 20 of them right now. So all of you should check out the SDG Academy. They're now on edX, edX platform, which is very, very useful. They're open for everybody. We're going to create some kind of certificate so that you take 4 or 5 of these and then you get an SDG certificate, because we want you to have also that kind of certification for employers, for funding, and so on. So we'll create that facility as well. But if you go on the SDG Academy website or straight to edX, but I think better SDG Academy, you'll find a lot of helpful courses. They won't answer your specific operational questions, but they'll open, I think they'll open a lot of discussion on important topics. When you have a great solution, we should help you scale it. For example, the SDG School Initiative, which is perfect. And let me distinguish the kinds of scalability, because it comes to the question of behavior change and other things. Certain kinds of things scale because you have a great app in effect, and it can just be taken up everywhere. This is the perfect scalability where the marginal cost is very low, and you've developed a new curriculum, for example, but it's great and it can be widely taken up. That's the simplest thing for us to help on. Behavior change is another kind of scale up. It's hard work, but it doesn't cost very much. It just is a question of how to be effective at it. That's going to involve, for example, eating less red meat as part of an environmental solution on the planet. That's a kind of major behavior change, or more walking and public transport rather than automobiles. But it's not only individual in that case, it also is what is the public system, public transport, and so on. So behavior change is a second kind of scaling up. A third kind of scaling up is you need money. And that's not just an attitude problem or a behavior problem, it's a resource problem. And we have two big kinds of resource challenges: poor people and public goods. Poor people don't have funds. So telling poor people school is really important is not such a simple thing. Or telling poor people take care of your health is not such a meaningful statement. It's rather, how can we ensure access to services? I deal with governments every day, and many governments simply don't have the money to provide more classrooms, better paid teachers, more clinics, and so forth. That's not a simple behavior change issue. That is, why in this rich world are we leaving people so impoverished? That's a more Matthew 25 problem, which is that the rich need to give to the poor. And that's a problem of social justice more than, I mean, it is behavior change, but of 2,000 billionaires, rather than the behavior change of the people who are most direct in line. Maybe that's a good behavior change exercise. Behavior change for billionaires. Here, enroll in this course and find meaning in life. And we could have just 2,000 students. And I think that's a good idea, actually, which is we should offer a course to billionaires, which is life meaning. We will introduce them to Aristotle, to Jesus, and to a few others. And this will be very, very helpful for them. But the point I'm making is that different kinds of scaling up require different kinds of solutions. And that's why I keep saying get clarity about the particular problems and the particular challenges that are faced. Because some are attitudinal, some are financial, some are technological, some are making the good prototype that then can go viral, and so on, okay? Finally, I want to say a word about your activism. All of you are doing things, projects, programs, helping people, and all of you are leaders of the SDGs also. And leaders of the SDGs is an advocacy role. So you always have to advocate as well as to do. And doing both of those is essential, by the way. Because if you're not doing, you can't understand. At least I can't understand. The only way I understand something is trying to do it, run into the wall, say, oh, there was a wall there, I didn't even know that. And then try to find the door, and then go through the door, hit the next wall. I don't have the imagination to figure out this world. But what I do find useful is to try to solve the problem. Then you find out what the obstacles are. And then you learn, you get help, you get guidance, you follow, go on to the next thing. But you're already leaders also, so you need to be advocates. And that means that as you're walking down the street, you grab someone and say, do you know what the SDGs are? And you go to your local politicians and say, why aren't you running on the SDGs? You go to your mayor, you go to the university president and say, we're not doing enough on the SDGs. And by the way, do you know that that universities are now being evaluated based on their commitment to sustainable development? So they are. So there's now criteria to ask whether universities are doing sustainable development. And that will make universities pay attention because they want to be ranked properly. So that's another place to go. So when you advocate, I think that there are 3 places at least that I'd like you to advocate. One is in your own communities so that people know. You're members of churches, you're citizens, you live in a city where you can go see the mayor and tell them, I just got back from the Vatican, I have an important message for you. They will give you an appointment, okay? This meeting is going to open doors for you, so use that. So one is the communities, and second is the politicians. The politicians don't generally know about these issues, but they need to know. And this is an agenda for them also. And it's a good agenda. And some will take it, others won't. But the ones that will amplify this because they speak a lot, they run for office, they make promises. And so getting the SDGs into politics is absolutely important. It won't work actually without that. And so we need to be talking to the politicians about this more than we are. And third, I want you to be members of Move Humanity, all of you. That means that we're asking the super rich to do their part. And in all parts of the world, there are wealthy people. And wealthy people need to be spoken to because from those who have much, much is expected. And so we need to, and you can do that. They may not take my call, but they'll take your call. Especially if you tell them, by the way, we have 5 million young people on our email list. Ooh, okay. That will be better. And so when you pool the email list and when you're a network of networks and you've got a global movement that is aligned, then Move Humanity is really important because part of the challenge is closing the financial gap. I promise you, we cannot solve the health, the education, the biodiversity, the social protection problems without more money. And we're going to go after the money in a number of different ways. We're going to go after the money by trying to close tax loopholes. We're going to go after the money by trying to stop tax havens and all of the corruption that is involved with that. We're going to call for carbon levies because the world needs to put a price on carbon. But if we even put a $10 per ton price on CO2 emissions, that, by the way, would be $400 billion a year. And so even modest carbon taxation would go a long way towards things we need. So we're going to try to do that. But we're also going to go after behavior change of 2,208 individuals who are the list of billionaires in the Forbes magazine list. And their net worth is about $10 trillion. That's good. We got to get that. We have to get them to put that towards the SDGs. And we're recommending at a minimum 1% per year. So if you've got $10 trillion, 1% of that is 100 billion. 100 billion would put every child in a classroom in the world and everybody with access to basic health care. It's amazing. That's what 2,200 people can do. It's absurd. Jeff Bezos is worth alone $130 billion. He lost $8 billion yesterday, by the way, when the market went down. Easy come, easy go. But it's still $130 billion. So he once said a few months ago, I don't know what to do with my money here, so I want to go to Mars. And I wrote an op-ed, why don't you do something on Earth first? Mars is fine. But we've got to talk to them. And in Nigeria, Mr. Dangote is very philanthropic, but we need more. And we need to ask him to help lead Nigeria's success in the SDGs. And all over Africa, there are billionaires now, and we need to get them engaged in the SDG problem solving. So I want you all to be part of this because this is a general proposition. And I think what we will do as part of that is put on the list of the recipients of this money also the Global Youth Empowerment Fund. So what we'll say is that some of this money should be directed towards youth projects around the world. So this is something, you help fund that. So Move Humanity is making two things. One, we're making a direct appeal to billionaires. Come on, get with it. You have to do something. And second, we're making a direct appeal to the UN General Assembly. We had the President of the General Assembly here the last couple of days. She had to go back for an emergency session of the General Assembly. But she's very supportive of this, and I want to get what starts as an intergovernmental negotiation to get governments to call for these special new sources of funding to close the SDG financing gap. And we'll send everybody here a draft paper, which we've written that explains some of the numbers. But I want you all to be advocates for this. And there'll be some training materials and some, the talking points and some events, and we'll be partnering with the Global Citizen and so on. But this is a way to raise our voices because we're not in a world of poverty. We're in a world where there are poor people in the midst of wealth. That's really a different thing. That was not true 100 years ago. That was never true before for humanity. It's true now. When Jesus said to give to the poor, that was in a time where almost everybody was poor, so the moral imagination was astounding. Now we're in a world of wealth, and yet we're trying to talk these people. They're kind of obsessed with their wealth. They're addicted to it, and we're trying to help them overcome an addiction. So this is behavior change. We're trying to have them wake up in the morning and think, my God, I have more than I could ever use in a million years. What good am I going to do today? That's behavior change. So that's a good project, Christopher. Let's work on that. And maybe you're right. Maybe everything is behavior change. If we just think of it in the right way. This is what I recommend for you. We're here to empower you. We're here to help you scale up, find solutions, find mentors, find advice, and you're here to provide all the energy and change for success. So I think it's a good deal. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Professor Sachs, for those remarkable words and call to action. And I saved this little exercise for the end. It's a 1-minute exercise, but I wanted it to be memorable. So can I ask everyone, just in your own head, privately, maybe if you need a piece of paper in front of you, to calculate your own net worth? Just in your own head, don't announce it, especially you. I know you've got a lot after the announcement you made in the last session. But if you could just calculate it for 30 seconds, I'll give it to you, and that's basically to get whatever you own, in my case, just a laptop, but, and then cancel all out your debt and see what your net worth is. Just 30 seconds. Okay, that was actually much more difficult than I thought. But I hope you at least have a ballpark number in your head. Now imagine 1% of that. 1% of that going towards the Sustainable Development Goals. And it would go massively in helping close that. It's not much, is it? And I know the scalability is not the same, but it is to explain a story, which is that a very small amount of finances can go a very long way in helping some of these SDG financing gaps in the most urgent of areas. And I think that's a really important lesson and a really important point that we have here. And of course, we will have many exciting campaigns that will come up for this. There is one we will have on 2nd of December. If you're keen to be a part of it, please get in touch. But it is about how do we build a global movement of young people who can help mobilize the finances for the SDGs, particularly through these 2,208 individuals. And this will happen in cities around the world, and we will follow up with more and more. World Youth Day, early next year at, on the sidelines of Davos or counter Davos, and for the months ahead of that. But this is something that we're committed to doing, and I hope that you all join in what Professor Sachs said, is to build that email list so that we can all advocate for the SDGs, for the financing of SDGs, and helping make the world a better place. But also to help your advocacy effort and to help your local efforts within your organizations and at large. And I think this is a very critical point. And just one final point on the university stuff. When I was on university, I couldn't wait to get out. But now I realize that it is one of the most valuable places to be. Access to fellow organizers, access to lots of talented and wonderful individuals, but most importantly, access to expertise that you can go and get free advice on. If you want, try it with consultancy.
And I can tell you, I went into the university 46 years ago and never went out. It's a good gig, I recommend it.
I just wanted to emphasize that. Also, you get free venue in most of yours, and that's hard to come by. But anyway, and free advice. Okay, so a huge thank you to all of you. It has been wonderful, and sorry to keep you over time, but I think the discussions were well worth it. I hope you've had a wonderful experience. Thank you to all our speakers, to all our participants. If I can just make a quick announcement, if some of the SDSN youth, if the SDSN youth folks can stay behind for a quick chat with Professor Sachs after, everyone else please go to dinner. We'll join you in 5 to 10 minutes. I don't know if there are any logistical matters that we need to announce, Gabriella or anyone else, or no? Please go to dinner. Okay, please go to dinner, I'm told. I must also admit that we have had 72,000 Twitter impressions in the space of a day, so congratulations. To our communications team, Yongtong, and the rest of you who helped in that effort. While downstairs, we will hope to have a group photo in the Casina in the courtyard. And another very important thing, it is the birthday of 3 individuals, maybe more, I don't know, come out if it's also your birthday, I don't know. But specifically from our team, it's the birthday of Dario Viselli, who spoke earlier. Ijun Mok
anymore.
Thank you.
No, I'm kidding. No, that's
no. Ijun Mok. And Gabriela Sampaio. Awesome. And if we could just wish them a quick happy birthday. So. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear guys. Happy birthday to you. Thank you very much. And finally, I just want to thank the SDSN Youth team from the Secretariat, in particular Kayla, for putting together a wonderful, so thank you for a big round of applause. And of course, Monsignor and Gabriela for the wonderful, and Alba as well. And our wonderful interpreters.
And let's also send a special greeting to Pope Francis, who inspires all of us and leads all of us in this, so if we can do that as well.
So, once again, thank you to all of you. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor. Now let's go and have some dinner. Bon appetit, and I call this session closed. Thank you.